I'm Justin from Barnhouse Sound Productions, and welcome to What's That Sound? If you're into gear reviews and other tips on how to get the best sounds in your recording studio, make sure you subscribe to this channel. Today, I'm reviewing Warm Audio's WA73 series of rack mount preamps. The WA73-EQ and mic pre recreates one of the most legendary preamp sounds ever, the Neve 1073. The original 1073 was a channel strip module featured on recordings by iconic artists like Queen, the Sex Pistols, The Clash, the Rolling Stones, and many more. Warm Audio's WA73-EQ is my go-to emulation of that classic British sound. And today, I'll be focusing on the WA273, which is the two-channel version of this rack mount preamp and EQ. Frankly, I love this thing, and I use it all the time. Today, I'm going to use the Warm Audio 273 to warm up some digital synthesizers, and I'm also going to use it to add some low end and some crispiness to some drums that I recorded here at the Barnhouse. So let's get into it. Warm Audio's WA73-EQ is my go-to emulation of that classic British sound, and today I'll be focusing on the WA273, which is the two-channel version of this rack mount preamp and EQ. Frankly, I love the way this thing helps warm up my sound and sculpt the sound the way I want it. A lot of the times I'll use it when in the recording process, when I'm either plugging a microphone into it before it gets into the computer. But today, I'm going to be using it as a hardware insert in Pro Tools. When you do that, you can use it almost like a plugin, and it goes right on your insert channel, as you can see here in my Pro Tools session. And what it does is it's running the signal out of the computer through the WA73 back into the computer. And I can show for you a couple comparisons of some tracks before they went through the unit and after they went through the unit. But first off, I'd love to give you a little bit of an idea of what we're going to be listening to and what we're going to be working on. So let's have a listen. Now we'll bring in some drums. Now, what we have here are some digital synthesizers that were actually all done inside the box, inside Ableton, using a software synthesizer that kind of sounds like a Roland Juno. And we have some basic chords here. We have two different pad sounds. We have an arpeggio, and we have some bass. The first thing that I wanted to sculpt a little bit more than what we had was the bass. And I ran it through the WA73 to add it a little bit more low end, to take away a little bit of high end, and to add some warmth. One thing I really love about taking audio out of the computer, running it through an analog device and going back in, is it invokes a lot of that natural saturation and warmth that you don't necessarily get when you're only working in the computer. So let's take a little listen to the bass before I ran it through the unit and after. This is before. And this is after. You can hear all the low end got extended, some of the highs got taken away, and it also gave us some nice warmth and sustain. also recorded some drums on this track with just 4 simple mics. We're thinking of something along the Tame Impala kind of vibe by using a kick, snare, and 2 overhead mics. We summed those down into 1 bus, and then we ran that through the WA273. So let's have a listen to the drums beforehand, and then a listen to the drums after. Let's solo up the drums here. So that is before, and let's check out after. Let's turn it up a little bit. Let's go back to before. So you can tell this is a little bit thinner, a little bit less low end, and there's a little bit of mid-range buildup. And then now we have a little bit more of an extended low end, a little bit of that mid-range cutout, and a little bit of high-end sparkle added. Next, let's take a look at the pad. When I got it, it sounded like that. And then when we sent it through the 273, it sounds like this. So a lot less high end, a lot more pronounced mid-range, and it smoothened the whole sound. So it kind of made it feel a little bit more delicate to listen to and not as harsh. Last but not least, I'm going to show you guys the arpeggio sound that we ran through the 273 as well. We drove it a little bit harder this time to give it a little bit more distortion or saturation. Here it is before, and here it is after. Before, after. Overall, what this tool does for me is it allows me to sculpt things quicker in real time than it does using a plugin. I love getting my hands on these knobs and manipulating them. Another thing that I use the 273 for a lot is vocals when recording. And a really nice feature of the 273 is having the insert buttons, which allows you to have another effect or another outboard piece of gear put in line with, in between your microphone, your preamp, and your computer. And with a simple press of a button, you can bring this insert in and out. A lot of the times, this is how I'll bring in an external effect of some sort, whether that's a compressor or a effect such as my tape echo over here in the corner. But generally, I have one channel set to the 1176 Warm Audio compressor, and the other channel insert I have going through the Bluey, which is another 1176 style compressor. In the future, we'll do a video on how we like to use the WA73 on vocals with our U47 and how we use these 2 different kind of compressors to sculpt the sound of the vocal going in. In conclusion, the WA273 is one of those pieces of gear that I use on every session. And if I didn't have it, I would probably end up using a plugin a lot more often. Something along the lines of the UAD Neve clone that they have, which is really nice and is a really nice comparison to the WA273. However, I still feel that using the hardware unit gives me a lot more flexibility and speed to be able to sculpt the sound that I want. You can find all the settings that I used on the WA273 in the description of this video, as long with a link to the song that we were listening to today. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I'm Justin LaPointe from Barnhouse Sound Productions.